I'm here today in Dayton, Ohio at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. Heard about this place from my friend the Drifter, and I was within a couple hours of here, so I thought I'd come and check it out. Looks like they've got a lot of neat things here to see. So let's go on inside and see what we got here. All right, so you get to start off here in the early flight room. Had some stuff about ballooning there on the wall there, and you got like these old style planes. Pretty neat stuff. I saw the pictures on the ballooning. I was like, well, where are the big ones? The big ones. That's what I wanted to see. And they're right here. Even some of these early planes are pretty big. So here's a closer look at the Wright brothers plane. Even got Orville up there. Hey Orville, how's it hanging? It's a great museum. So much stuff here. Bring the whole family. And the best thing about this museum is it's free. The parking's free and the museum itself is free. And there's so much stuff here. And this is just in the first room. More to come. I think this is the actual Wright brothers plane. Now I got to go back and find out what that other thing is. Unless that was something they worked on too. Yeah, I gotta do some reading. I'll be right back with you. Okay, so this one is the Curtiss 1911 Model D, and then over here is a replica of the Wright brothers plane. So that is that's probably not Orville there. So sorry I didn't know what your name was. Right, so here you got a shot of the Wright brothers plane, and then they even have some original 1903 Wright Flyer fabric. That is cool. So as you walk into the National Air Museum here, National Air Force Museum, you're walking these big hangars, and they have several of them, and you're basically walking through history. You just kind of start in the early years. It's going to take us over to World War I. We're going to go to World War II, Cold War, maybe, you know, modern times, so you get some modern aircraft, but also you're going to see some stuff from NASA, the space program. So lots of stuff to get through today. So get ready to head into the World War I section here.
The situation was remedied in April 1918 when the United States Air Service purchased the most capable observation plane from Russia.
They have lots and lots of exhibits. Uniforms, model planes, the actual planes themselves. I'm telling you, a lot of history here, a lot of stories here, and it's fun for the whole family. Did I mention it's free? That's the best thing about it. Now this is really cool. Definitely a place you need to stop if you're in Dayton, Ohio. And really, it's an all-day thing. I mean, you can stop by if you have like a couple hours, obviously, but this could be an all-day thing. There's so much information here. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to all of it because I got here a little bit later in the morning. That's okay, because that's time where you can come back for a second visit. All right, this thing here is one of the early wind tunnels. That is fascinating. Look how smooth that is. It's just smooth. Howard Hughes would love that. So this is the McCook Field Wind Tunnel. I always pictured wind tunnels as being like super huge, but the early ones, I guess, were like this. Pretty cool. That propeller there looks smooth too. Yeah, it's real smooth. Any of you guys see The Aviator? It's a great movie. Kind of thinking about that movie a lot, being in here. During World War I, Italian aeronautical engineer Gianni Caproni developed a series of multi-engine heavy bombers, and here's one of them. Now that's something I didn't know, that they had heavy bombers in World War I. A lot of people don't realize this, but during World War I, in the early planes, they actually had valet parking. This guy's ready to park the plane. So, where shall I park it, sir? Wow, this thing is massive. And so as you get out of the World War I section, you're kind of in the interwar years. And the big quest was for more speed. So as you walk through this museum, you're basically walking through the evolution of flight, with a Model T Ford ambulance thrown in here just for good measure. So like I said, there's so much just in this first hangar. Really cool. Oh, there's one I missed. Yeah, so be sure you take a look all around, because there's things hanging from the ceiling too. Don't want to rush through this place. Too much to look at. Ooh, this looks fun. This plane has big feet. That's cool. I'm digging the color scheme on this. This is a Boeing P-26A pea shooter. First all-metal monoplane fighter in regular service. So as you go through the evolution of flight, you're also going to have more mishaps. And this is a display using a BT-14 that shows what can happen if you're taxiing and you apply your brakes too hard. Boy, this guy is really hearing it, isn't he? He's really getting an earful. Would not want to be him. But with more people training and then learning more things, you're bound to have more accidents. And this is a relatively minor one though. But yeah, you're going to have that. And they make mention of that here too, which is cool. Now we are in the World War II section. They're going to showcase some planes dealing with the war with Japan and the war with Germany as well. I love these kinds of planes. Look like sharks. That is cool. So you just continue your journey through the evolution of aircraft in the U.S. Air Force. And again, don't forget to look up. You might miss something if you don't. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States was ill-prepared for a war. In fact, they had underestimated Japan. And so in an attempt to at least strike back to a certain degree, you had the Doolittle raid. And so they have one of the planes here and some displays that talk about the Doolittle raid led by Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle. The plane used for this raid was the B-25B Mitchell. So they have one of these planes on display here. That is great. You don't have to know the history to appreciate this place, but if you are a history buff, you're gonna love it.
On the morning of April 18, 1942, the task force was sighted by Japanese patrol boats. The boats were quickly destroyed, but they could have transmitted a position report. It was 8 hours before scheduled takeoff, an additional 400 miles to the target. Gas reserves would be dangerously low, but they were spotted and they would have to go.
Can't help but feel a little patriotic when you visit places like this. Very cool. Here's a P-39Q. Did I stay on there long enough for the airplane buffs? You can always pause the video and go back if you need to, but I am trying to make sure I'm spending enough time on some of these. One of the highlights here at the museum in the World War II section is the actual Memphis Belle B-17 Flying Fortress. Now that is cool. The actual bomber itself. That was the first heavy bomber to return. First heavy bomber to return to the United States after 25 successful missions. Okay, I'm underneath the Memphis Belle now. Boy, how would you like that job to be there? And then here are where the bombs were, bomb bay doors. This is super cool. So you can see they had men stationed throughout this thing who could be gunners, and then of course then you could drop the bombs as well. Here's what you'd call another highlight of the display here at the Air Force Museum. Is the Boeing Boxcar B-29 Superfortress. This is the plane that dropped the Fat Man atomic bomb on Nagasaki on August 9th, 1945, 3 days after the atomic attack against Hiroshima. So some real history here on display. I love how you can just get really up close to these things and see them, and you just really see just how massive they are. It's a huge, huge aircraft. And again, Howard Hughes would like that. Look how smooth that is. Very aerodynamic. All right, off to the next section. I think the Cold War section is next. All right, now this is what I'm talking about. Hey, the other part of the museum's cool, don't get me wrong. I love it, but now we're getting to the big ones. We've moved into the Cold War section. And a lot of big planes. We'll start to get into jets, which are really cool. Just to remind you where it all came from. You got the Wright brothers plane there, another replica of that. All right, let's take a look and see what we have here. Alright, I'm standing underneath the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress that had, here's a picture of one that had been used in Southeast Asia, and all the bombs that could be dropped from that. And you're just under the tail of it right here. This thing takes up a huge, huge amount of space in this hangar. I mean, I can't get the whole thing in the video. Oh, hey, look, you can come under here and look at the wheel well. That's where all the bombs were kept here. Wow, this is cool. And they even have a little video here about arc light missions to Southeast Asia. Pretty cool. They let you go inside one of these big cargo planes here. That is pretty cool. You can see the folding passenger seats. And they're folded up right there. Yeah, this is neat. Can't go back there, you know, for your safety. But yeah, you walk in right through the nose of this aircraft and you get a sense of how steep this is. It's really steep, so they could keep, like, you know, military equipment in here, but you could also keep infantry in here. And this is the outside of that plane. You walk in right there through the nose. It's the outside of that plane. That's a big boy. Thing is huge. Wonder what the blueprints were like for this thing. Pages and pages. Show me the blueprints. I want to see them blueprints. Show me the blueprints. Show me the blueprints. If you haven't seen the Aviator, you just had no idea what I just did there. No worries. Hope you're enjoying the show so far, though. Let's see what's over here. So we're still in the Cold War section. Hey, look, it's Gary Busey. No, that's not Gary Busey. It's Captain John S. Walmsley, United States Air Force, member of the 8th Bombardier Squadron, 3rd Bomb Wing. So they have a lot of these throughout the museum. These medals of honor. And different activities for the kids. They had some, like, free games the kids could do. All these exhibits. They even have, like, a motion simulator. So you can pay a little extra fee and be like you're flying in a plane. So fun for the whole family here. All right, here we have the F-22 Raptor, built by Lockheed Martin. It's the world's first stealthy air dominance fighter. Wow, this thing is cool. Now, I was joking, I was making jokes about the, you know, Howard Hughes always wanted the planes to be super, super smooth. He didn't like the rivets sticking out. And you watch the Aviator, you get a sense of that. But I mean, look at this. If he'd been alive to see this, he would have really wanted to see those blueprints. And look at that. He'd be like, I want that job. I want to design this plane. Would you give me that job? I'd be asking Howard, does this please you? It's super smooth. Very aerodynamic. That's cool. F-22 Raptor. All right, let's see what else we can find. Okay, well, I didn't know this. Look at this dog parachute. Specially made for Vittles, a dog that flew 131 missions with his owner, First Lieutenant Russ Stieber, during the Berlin airlift. Never had to use the parachute, though. That's good. But they had it specially made. A little doggy parachute. I don't know. You think he looks a little nervous about getting on that plane? All right, continuing our journey. We're in another hangar now. It's still Cold War, but we're just moving up in technology here. These huge bombers. Of course, you know, you're seeing more jets now than prop planes. Still a few, but yeah, we're mostly jets. There's still a couple prop planes around. but we're mostly into jets right now. And it looks like there's a stealth bomber over there. We'll take a look at that in a little bit here. All right, let's walk over here. F-94C Starfire. If any of you lived in Southern California, you probably remember the Cal Worthington Ford commercials. They would always start with Cal Worthington and his dog Spot, and then he would just go through a long list. Of course, the dog was always a tiger, and that never made sense to me. Maybe it was a dog originally. Maybe that was before my time. But I kind of feel like, well, and then after that, they would show all these cars. Like, here's a 1977 Ford Mustang, and he'd go through the details and go through the price, and it would just be boom, next car, boom, next car, boom, next car. I feel like I'm kind of doing that in this video. Well, here's a Boeing WB-50D Super Fortress, $2.2 million. And over here, we got a Mark 7 nuclear bomb, not for sale. Here we got a Republic F-84F Thunderstreak, $1.1 million. I'm just making up the prices. I don't know how much these things cost. I'm sure they're a small fortune though. Cost the American taxpayer a lot of money. It's a Boeing KC-97L Stratofreighter. And this one got stripped by the locals. Wow, we gotta do something about the crime in this country. Of course, that's not what happened. They just took the panels off so you can see what's going on inside. You can see its innards. Oh, that's cool. You got the gunnery stuff, the gun stuff here. That is really cool. You know, you just turn a corner here and then you'll see something else that you hadn't seen yet. So you're going to see all sorts of different planes, and then they'll have some display that you haven't seen yet, something a little bit different. Got the air conditioner, oxygen. That's really cool. This part of the museum, not very crowded right now. All right, this here is a pilotless nuclear deterrence craft called the Northrop SM-62 Snark. And then you got the big old plane over here again. We got a Convair B-58A Hustler. Just so many aircraft here. And these things are huge. That's a big old tire. XB-36 landing gear. Yeah, I'd be definitely calling AAA for help with that one if it went flat. Oh, looks like you can go underneath over here. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, more Bombay doors. Walk right under here. Caution. Quick action bomb doors. Yeah, you wouldn't want to be standing on these before a mission. Mind your head now. Yeah, this is cool. If you love planes, you are gonna love this place. It is so cool. But even if you just have a mild interest in these things, it's just a really cool museum. And again, it's free. FOC. FOC, free of charge, just like the Bates Motel. Well, he didn't let everyone stay there for free. Just certain people. Mostly ladies who were blonde. And he'd put them in room 1. But this place really is FOC for everyone. See, Norman Bates was discriminatory. This place is not. All right, this is one of my favorite aircrafts. It's the SR-71 Blackbird. This thing is cool. Built by Lockheed. Reach a top speed of 2,193 miles per hour. Can travel 15,000 miles at an altitude of 85,069 feet. How cool is that? And of course, this makes me think of the movie Firefox, starring Clint Eastwood. This thing is just massive. You can walk by the whole thing. Wow, that's cool. You just walk all the way around the whole thing. Pretty cool. Let's get a look at the back here. That's just one of the engines. Got another one over there. Here, along with the SR-71, highlights of this museum. This is the B-2 Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit, also known as the stealth bomber. Look how sleek that is. And with the advancing technologies, the Air Force had to step up their game and make sure that they could develop a bomber that would be undetected. That is smooth. Smooth and slick. Smooth as a baby's bottom. Another fighter over here. A few more planes. Oh, I love these things. You ever seen these things fly? They look cool. Down by San Diego, you'll see a lot of them. Well, really, if you're around any kind of base, you're probably going to see them at some point. It's a Bell Boeing CV-22B Osprey. So these propellers, propulsion, they can rotate, so they can hover, and then they can move you forward too. Pretty cool. Then you've got this rat over here. R1 Rescue All-Terrain Transport. Hey buddy, why are you so sad? They won't let you in the Osprey? You'll get your turn. Oh, you're taking a call. Sorry. Sorry to bother you. This thing is cool. It's the AC-130A Spectra. It's called a Hercules. Well, the C-130 was a Hercules. This is a Hercules. Technically, it's a Hercules. It's called a Hercules. It's made. It's basically the Hercules was a transport plane, and this is a Hercules that's been sort of converted into a gunship, and so you can see the guns sticking out the sides there. This reminds me of one of my favorite James Bond movies, The Living Daylights, where him and the bad guy, Necros, had a fight, and they tumbled out of the back of one of these things on an air cargo net. And that was pretty cool. And I've been fascinated with these planes ever since. So this is the Spectra. It's called a Hercules. All right, this is the missile display, missile gallery. Now these things are massive. These are, as they call them, the Sentinels of Freedom. You ever seen that movie, The Sentinel? U.S. Air Force Strategic Missiles. This is impressive. I'm just not sure the video will do it justice. So you're just gonna have to come and see for yourself. We are in building 4, or hangar 4. And this gets you a little bit into the Space Administration and some of the more high-tech stuff. And I believe there's even an Air Force One in here, a former Air Force One. This is a replica of the space shuttle, just really so you can see the cockpit. It's not an actual shuttle. It looks like there's a space there for something. I wonder if they took it out for a spin. Okay, this is cool. Just like that Hercules. Here's another like mini helicopter. Not exactly like this, but very similar to this. Was used in the James Bond movie You Only Live Twice. If you've seen that, you'll notice this looks remarkably like Little Nelly. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Mini copters, mini jets. Yeah, it's really a great way to end your day at the National Air Force Museum. It's cool. A lot of cool stuff in here. Just keeps getting better and better as you go through the day. So yeah, this serves as a good finale to the day. This thing here is a Bull Goose. It's a pilotless missile decoy. And then we got a couple more aircraft here, even a flying saucer. You think that this might be the thing that people would see and think that there were UFOs. I mean, technically it was a UFO because it was unidentified if they saw it on the ground. But perhaps this was the flying saucer. Or is that just what they want us to think? Inquiring minds want to know. This thing right here looks very similar to a SR-71 Blackhawk. This is a YF-12A from Lockheed, and it was developed in the 60s as a high-altitude Mach 3 interceptor to defend against supersonic bombers. Pretty cool. And then we have the Hawker Siddeley XV-6A Kestrel. Well, gee whiz. It's a gee whiz braking system. One of 45 sets of hydraulic clasp type friction brakes used in the main braking system for the gee whiz sled. Huh. Interesting. Never seen one of these before. Alright, this is neat. You get to see the old space capsules. It's not a lot of room in there. I think I would be claustrophobic. And they have stuff here from the Apollo 15 mission. I don't think all these things are original. Okay, this is an early warning satellite. So a lot of the stuff around here is related to Air Force stuff having to do with space, and then of course NASA. There's a thing over there for the Space Force. And then you've got a couple things here for the Apollo 15, including a mission timeline. And a model. And then this is the thing that's actual. Apollo 15 Command Module Endeavor. So that's cool.
So that's the
Now this makes me want to watch that movie, The Right Stuff. Which, if you haven't seen that movie, it's a very good movie about the space program. Highly recommend. Interesting and yet educational at the same time. Man, I can't get over how small this thing is. Be a real tight squeeze. And look at all the knobs and switches. Probably when it was operating, probably a lot of lights blinking and flashing and blinking and flashing. Be enough to drive a man mad. So the grand finale of the museum here is the Presidential Gallery. And you can actually go up in this plane. This is the Douglas VC-54C, the Sacred Cow. This was the first airplane to fly the president. And Franklin D. Roosevelt was the first president to fly during his presidency. So it was officially named the Flying White House, but became more often referred to as the Sacred Cow, a reference to the high security surrounding the aircraft and its special status. So that's something new I've learned. I've always heard about Air Force One. I did not know that there was this first initial aircraft that FDR flew in. How cool is that? All right, we're inside the Sacred Cow. Here you got the cockpit. Navigator would sit there. If you do decide to visit, and you can walk in, it's a very narrow passageway. Keep that in mind. Certainly not the accommodations that a president on Air Force One would fly in today. We got a couple bunks here. Some storage compartments. Storage compartments. Storage compartments. And a couple more bunks here at the back. And a place to eat. All right, this aircraft is the Douglas VC-118, the Independence. This was the second aircraft built specifically to transport the President of the United States. A military version of the Douglas DC-6 commercial airliner. It was used by President Harry Truman from 1947 to 1953. All right, there's a little bit more room than this one. See, they're getting better. So you're gonna see, just like for the whole museum, you see the evolution of flight. For this last part, there's a bunk there. For this last part, you see the evolution of presidential travel. A lot more spaces for people here. Again, very narrow walkway. So keep that in mind if you choose to visit. We've got some meeting areas here. Pretty much thinking that's where Truman sat. That's awesome. Here's the Lockheed VC-140B Jetstar. This is the plane that James Bond rode on his way to the White House to meet the president at the end of Goldfinger. Obviously, it's not the actual plane, but that was the idea. It was this type of plane. Then Goldfinger hijacks the plane, walks in on James Bond. He's like, "Oh, you're going to the White House to meet the president too?" I don't think that was a very good impression. That's okay, you get the idea. And then this is the next plane that we walked through. This is the one that Eisenhower was transported on. The Lockheed VC-121E Columbine 3. This plane was built to serve President Dwight D. Eisenhower from 1954 until he left office in January of 1961.
Eisenhower.
Okay, we're on Eisenhower's plane now. This is neat because then you can see how things evolved. Each new president got to travel in a little bit better accommodations. Emergency flap crank. Oh, I sure hope they... Oh yeah, there's the door. I was like, wow, president ought to have some privacy. Unless he had to have meetings this way. You know, very important meetings. We can't wait for, you know, we need to have a diplomatic solution. We can't wait for one of us to go to the bathroom, so we'll just both go. Got some more bunks. Sitting area. So looks like with each new plane, they had room for more people to travel with the president. Looks like these could, looks like this sofa, like this one over here, looks like it could make into a bed. Oh, that's pretty cool. You have your departure time and what time it's going to be where you're going. Neat. So this is Eisenhower's plane. And this is probably the presidential area. Maybe he didn't have to face people when he went to the restroom. And I think our next plane is that one. Air Force One. This is the Boeing VC-137C SAM 26,000. The first jet aircraft built specifically for use by the President of the United States. During its 36-year flying career, it carried 8 sitting presidents and countless heads of state, diplomats, dignitaries, and officials on many historic journeys, known as special air missions. That's really cool. At the request of President John F. Kennedy, a new paint scheme was developed by First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy and famous industrial designer Raymond Loewy. In addition to the vibrant blue and white colors, the words United States of America were emblazoned in tall letters along the fuselage, and an American flag was placed on the tail. And now all of them are designed that way. Well, they look a little bit different, but I mean, The new Air Force One's a 747, so it's not exactly, but you get the idea. The idea is that they're clearly labeled now and they follow a similar paint scheme. And that all started with Kennedy. That's awesome. And so let's go inside, and of course this will be the biggest one of all. A lot more room. And I hope that they put one of the 747s on display somewhere. I'll have to look up. Maybe it's on display somewhere. Maybe one of the older ones is on display already. But it'd be neat to see what those look like. The closest thing we can get to seeing one of those is watching the movie Air Force One starring Harrison Ford. Alright, so we'll take a look at this one. Alright, I'm going to get on this Air Force One here. Yeah, look how smooth that is. That's how we want it to be. There's the cockpit. So as you can see with this one's going to be the biggest of all of them. And I'll have all the latest bells and whistles. So you have a communication facility. Little kitchen area. If you didn't do a good job, out you go. Of course, we got bigger seating areas, like places where people could work. Okay, you got a long sitting area here.
And you have a printer?
Sure.
Need a typewriter? That's a typewriter.
There's something that
That's a printer.
also in here, there would be people from the press, so the newspapers,
And so you can keep current with all the news here.
sitting here, something.
Different things that were going on while you're en route to your destination.
Not that many, but they have a few that would fly.
Bigger meeting areas.
I mean, you see all these seats in there. There's a lot of other people in here besides just the president. And all the telephones there too. Wow, this does.
Yeah, it's really neat to see just how much everything grew over the years. Presidents just kept taking more and more people with him everywhere. Well, there you have it, everybody. It's the National Air Force Museum here in Dayton, Ohio. We went through all of the hangars and we saw the evolution of airplanes, of flight, from the Wright brothers up into the space age. And then we got to conclude with a tour, a walkthrough, basically, of the very first Air Force One. This presidential gallery is great. So much to see here, so much history you can read about, so many exhibits to play around with, and little interactive activities for the kids. Definitely worth a visit if you're ever in the Dayton, Ohio area. And as we've mentioned throughout this video, the best thing about it is it's absolutely free. Free parking and free admission to the museum. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. And I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye now.